Governor Newsom moves to block Marines and National Guard as anti-ICE riots continue in L.A.
I can inform the rest of the country that when they do it, if they do it, they're going to be met with equal or greater force.
I'm Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley. Georgia Howe is off today. It's Wednesday, June 11th, and this is Morning Wire. Robert Kennedy Jr. ousts an entire vaccine advisory panel saying they've lost the public's trust. And show them the money. College athletes will now be getting paid to play.
The NCAA is essentially dead.
Thanks for waking up with Morning Wire. Stay tuned. We have the news you need to know.
America is built on hard work and powered by American energy. Chevron has spent $44 billion with local businesses across all 50 states since 2022, fueling infrastructure and communities, all while strengthening local economies. Last year, Chevron increased U.S. production nearly 20%, powering communities and businesses from the heartlands to the coasts. We're helping to fuel America's energy advantage, building a brighter future right here at home. Visit chevron.com/America to discover more.
As anti-Trump riots continue in Los Angeles, more violent demonstrations have broken out in cities nationwide. Daily Wire senior editor Cabot Phillips has more on the troubling trend. Hey, Cabot, so more cities seeing these demonstrations, a lot of them getting sort of out of control. What are we seeing now?
Yeah, in the last 24 hours, we've seen these violent anti-ICE demonstrations continue to spread. In San Francisco, for example, more than 150 people have been arrested after a riot formed outside of the local ICE office there, where cars and city buses were destroyed, storefronts vandalized, and police assaulted. In New York, at least a dozen more were arrested outside of Trump Tower after resisting police and attempting to shut down traffic. And anti-ICE organizers say that they're planning demonstrations in Chicago, Austin, Dallas, Atlanta, the list goes on. But LA is still the epicenter of the unrest this week, with riots continuing Tuesday night. In the last 24 hours, looting there has become widespread. We've seen a large Apple store robbed by hundreds of rioters. We also saw jewelry and shoe stores looted as well. Here's one store owner in the city who spoke out Tuesday.
This is so ridiculous. This doesn't look like this is for they're protesting for ICE or anything. This is they're doing just for the looting the stores and everything.
Now, the riots in L.A. have drawn a lot of attention to Mayor Karen Bass. We talked about her yesterday. A lot of this attention not good for her. How is she responding?
Yeah, a lot of people frustrated with the mayor, who has continued to downplay these riots, saying the violence is taking place only in, quote, several isolated streets in downtown Los Angeles. It's not even all of downtown Los Angeles. Bass has made clear from the very start here that she places the blame not on the rioters, but on the Trump administration. Here she is on CNN.
If immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night. I will tell you that it is peaceful now. If they see ICE, they go out and they protest. And so it's just a recipe for pandemonium that is completely unnecessary.
But while Mayor Bass says the riots are being blown out of proportion by the media and that the LAPD has the situation under control, Police Chief Jim McDonnell is directly refuting that characterization.
Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people.
Now, Trump has been very proactive when it comes to this issue. How has he responded to these ongoing riots?
Yeah, he's continued to repeat his belief that had he not mobilized the National Guard and deployed Marines, Los Angeles would be burning right now. Speaking from the Oval Office Tuesday, Trump had a clear message for folks in the rest of the country.
You know, if we didn't attack this one very strongly, you'd have them all over the country. But I can inform the rest of the country that when they do it, if they do it, they're going to be met with equal or greater force.
But Democratic lawmakers nationwide have continued to push back on his mobilizing of the National Guard and the Marines, saying it was unnecessary and even fascist. Not only is Governor Newsom suing the Trump administration, calling the mobilization of troops a, quote, unmistakable step towards authoritarianism, but on Tuesday, he also filed an emergency motion requesting a restraining order to block the deployment of National Guardsmen and Marines. That request ultimately was denied by a judge Tuesday night. The president responded to that move during a speech to troops at Fort Bragg.
Under the Trump administration, this anarchy will not stand. We will not allow federal agents to be attacked, and we will not allow an American city to be invaded and conquered by a foreign enemy, and that's what they are.
And one interesting polling nugget that's worth mentioning here. Based on the latest numbers among U.S. legal immigrants, the GOP now holds an 8-point advantage over Democrats on the question of which party they trust more on immigration.
Well, immigration continues to be a strong issue for Republicans and Trump in particular. Cabot, thanks so much for reporting.
Absolutely.
Do you have an ancient mattress with a crater in the middle that sucks you in like quicksand, leaving you with throbbing back pain that no amount of stretching can fix? Maybe you've tried flipping it, adding foam toppers, and even sleeping sideways, but nothing helps. If a solid night's sleep keeps eluding you, then you need to check out Helix. Helix improves your nights and keeps you sleeping well all night long so you can wake up each morning ready to be your best self. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or somewhere in between, they have you covered. All you have to do is take their sleep quiz and find your ideal match. And trust me, when you find the right match, you'll wonder how you ever slept on anything else. I just received my California King Dusk Luxe Helix mattress and have already felt the difference. I'm 6'4", so that extra space is an absolute game changer. They have so many great options perfectly tailored for me and my unique sleeping needs. Right now is the perfect time to upgrade your sleep because Helix is offering a fantastic summer sale. Head over to helixsleep.com/wire to get 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/wire for 20% off site-wide. helixsleep.com/wire.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has gutted a key vaccine advisory panel. Here to explain is Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo. Hey, Amanda. So another vaccine-related shakeup here led by RFK Jr. First, tell us about this panel.
Yeah, so this panel is called the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices. It's known as ACIP. They meet a few times a year and they make recommendations to the CDC. They basically set the childhood vaccination schedule and they make other vaccine-related recommendations like flu shots and the COVID vaccine. ACIP also heavily influences which vaccines are covered by both public and private health insurance, so a very significant panel. Now, on Monday, Kennedy announced that he's retired all 17 members. He reportedly sent out termination notices to all of them. They'll be replaced by Kennedy, and I would expect that to happen in the next month or so.
All right, so 17 members gone to be replaced soon. What's Kennedy's reasoning for all of this?
Yeah, well, RFK actually gave his explanation for this in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. He said that basically ACIP had become a rubber stamp for all vaccines, and they weren't appropriately digging into vaccine safety issues. He wrote that ACIP has never recommended against a vaccine, even those which were later withdrawn for safety reasons. And he added that the panel failed to scrutinize vaccine products for both babies and pregnant women. Kennedy also highlighted conflicts of interest from ACIP. He cited past investigation findings that found that ACIP's enforcement of conflict of interest rules was weak to non-existent, and he said that the panel did not offer transparency in their decision-making. Now, 13 of the 17 panelists were appointed by the Biden administration in 2024. So Kennedy said that he had to replace them all since if they served out their 4 years, which is typical, he wouldn't get a new panel until 2028. Kennedy said that he wants new panelists to be more transparent and he doesn't want any conflicts of interest. And we can assume that they'll more align with his views, which is to generally say that they'll be more skeptical of vaccines or, challenging on safety issues. Here's a clip of Kennedy battling with Democrat Senator Chris Murphy during his confirmation hearing. They're specifically talking about the measles vaccine, but it really outlines how Kennedy feels about general vaccine transparency with the public.
Are you recommending the measles vaccine or not?
What I pledged before this committee during my confirmation is that I would tell the truth, that I would have radical transparency. I'm going to tell the truth about everything we know and we don't know about vaccines.
Are you recommending the measles vaccine or not?
I am not going to just tell people everything is safe and effective if I know that there's issues.
It's also noteworthy that ACIP was supposed to meet later this month to talk about the COVID vaccine. Now, we might remember that back in May, the CDC, without getting recommendations from ACIP, they actually rescinded guidance that said that pregnant women and children should receive the COVID vaccine. So seemingly another reason for this swift change.
Yeah, definitely notable. What sort of reaction are we seeing over this move by RFK?
Yeah, there's a bit of a panic in legacy media. They're calling this move dangerous. And they say that while Kennedy might be technically accurate about his citations on conflicts of interest, they say that these panelists are nonpartisan, they're dedicated to science, and they're basically above reproach. One health expert said that these panelists should be receiving rewards instead of pink slips. Now, on the other side of that, you have the Maha crowd, and they're all for this change. They want more transparency. They want more scrutiny on vaccines, and they view this as a fulfilled promise from RFK. And we should also highlight the reaction from Republican Senator Bill Cassidy. He's a physician, and he was a key vote to confirm Kennedy, and he only did so after he got assurance from Kennedy that he would keep ACIP. Now, Cassidy posted on X that there is now a fear that the board will be filled up with people who, quote, know nothing about vaccines except suspicion. But he also said that he's personally spoken to RFK about this, and he'll continue to speak to him to ensure that that doesn't happen.
We'll be watching with interest to see who fills these positions in the next few weeks. Amanda, thanks so much for reporting.
You're welcome.
College athletes can now be paid directly by their schools after a huge lawsuit was settled this week. Here to tell us more is David Cohn, co-host of Crane & Company. Hey, Dave. So a real game changer for college athletics. Can't be really overstated how big a difference this is. What did we just see with this settlement?
Certainly. I can't emphasize this enough. A new era has dawned in college athletics. What was illegal merely a week ago, as you said, is now the settled law of the land. So this case, House versus NCAA, which you and I have discussed before, is a class action lawsuit which claimed that the NCAA was limiting the earning potential illegally for college athletes. Now, a settlement in this case has been approved by District Judge Claudia Wilkin. This agreement ends 3 separate antitrust lawsuits, and it means schools can now begin paying the athletes directly. We had Trey Wallace from Outkick on our show Crane & Company this week, and this is how he believes college sports will be affected.
You're going to see schools start cutting track and field, rowing, volleyball. Some of these mid-major softball programs are going to get cut. You can't afford them anymore. And you're relying on football to pay a lot of the bills.
Now, the first checks will be cut on July 1st, which means these programs across the country and these administrations really need to hurry up and establish the necessary infrastructure to be able to pull this off. I want you to know this doesn't just affect current and future student athletes, because the NCAA will pay nearly $2.8 billion with a B in back damages over the next 10 years. And this is to any athlete who competed in college at any time from 2016 to the present day.
It's a lot of money. Now, we should point out that for the last few years, college athletes have been paid, but this is a totally different arrangement, correct?
Yes. In short, this separates NIL, name, image, and likeness, from this direct payment from the universities. So the cases of O'Bannon versus the NCAA or Alston versus the NCAA, which you and I have discussed before, those pave the way for college athletes to receive monetary compensation, but usually from third parties, boosters, collectives, not from the athletic programs themselves. This settlement allows schools to share their revenue directly with the athletes for the first time. It also allows these programs to create new rules designed to limit those third-party influences like the collectives and like the boosters. So starting this summer, any endorsement deal between a booster and an athlete will be vetted to ensure it's for a valid business purpose rather than simply for recruiting.
So this finally puts a limitation on these NIL deals. That's something we haven't seen in the past. They've been really limitless, correct?
Correct. And there will be more policing now. And with this settlement comes an annual cap, much how a salary cap works in professional sports. But this is going to be roughly $20.5 million for the 2025 year. And it's estimated to go up each year over the course of this decade-long deal. What will be very interesting to monitor is how each athletic director allocates these funds to the different sports that they're in charge of, and how each program will continue to incorporate NIL, because that doesn't go away, on top of what is seen as a revenue sharing model.
All right, so what about the lawsuits? Does this actually, the settlement, put an end to these lawsuits, or are we going to continue to see legal action against the NCAA?
That's a great question. I'll tell you what will not end are the debates on whether or not college athletes are employees and if they should be considered as much, how long college athletes can continue to compete, will there be collective bargaining or a union? Those are some of the conversations that will not end. However, NCAA President Charlie Baker does believe this will help regulate what has been a very volatile market the last few years, with everyone trying to figure out what exactly is going on.
Meanwhile, it's going to be fascinating to see how these schools divvy up this $20 million, which sports benefit, which sports really suffer. Dave, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And a quick programming note, you asked for it, so we brought it back. Morning Wire's afternoon update show is back with a few slight tweaks. Look for Evening Wire in your podcast feeds on weekdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for waking up with us, and if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. We'll be back this evening with more news you need to know.